1911 magazines, what's the difference? Hi folks, Bob Serva from Fusion. This week I had a really good question from one of our customers here on feedback on our YouTube videos, and just general technical questions we get every week. And one of them was customer was confused of caliber and magazine for the gun. And I'm not really meaning that, didn't understand that you need a 9mm magazine for a 9mm pistol. What the customer didn't really understand is that they're thinking, I get this question quite a bit, that people are thinking that the actual magazine itself is a different size dependent on caliber. And that's not true, okay? Basically, the magazines are going to be, the body diameters of the magazines, the profile of the outside of the body is all going to be the same regardless of caliber. Now, there are differences in the magazines due to the caliber that you're going to be shooting, but again, a lot of those are very similar also. So let's go through just a few things just so we have a complete understanding of that. It'll clarify a lot of things for people. So regardless if you have a 9mm, a 40 S&W, a 10mm, a 45 ACP, a 380 auto, whatever, it doesn't matter what caliber you have. When you look at the opening in the frame of a standard single stack 1911, it's going to be the same on all of them, okay? It's not like this opening is bigger for a 45 ACP versus a 9mm, all the same size. Now, what are the differences? And I've explained this in other videos. You will have some differences in the frames themselves. So, a government frame and a commander frame, this area here, that you're gripping on and where the magazine is inserted into the mag well, is the same. So you're going to use the same full-size magazines on a commander or a government model. For any caliber, you're going to use the same size magazines. Now, what is your other choice that you have? You have your officers and defender frames, which are basically very close to the same exact size frames, other than generally the dust cover has a little bit of differences to it. And what's that going to do? Well, that, again, even though the frame is smaller, it has the exact same magwell opening as the government and commander size. So it's going to be the same. Again, it is just a shorter handle, a shorter gripping handle. So, the mags are made shorter to accommodate the shorter frame. So again, when you put that in there, it'll fit flush with the bottom of and lock it up, it'll fit flush with the bottom of the frame. Now, another thing you can do, it kind of defeats the purpose. Can you use a full-size mag in an officer's or a defender frame? Yes, you can. The mag will still go in. The only problem is you'll notice it'll stick out the bottom. So if I take this 45 ACP mag and insert it into the frame, again, you'll see same exact mag well size opening. Here's a 38 Super, same size, 9mm, different brand, same size, still fits. 10mm, same size, still fits. So you'll notice that regardless of the magazine, that there is no difference in the outside of the body profile from the different calibers that you're going to be shooting if you have a different gun. Now, there is going to be obviously differences in the magazines when you look at some of the mechanics of the magazine, and you look at the feed lips here, and you look at the follower. Okay, the follower is a spring-loaded plate on the bottom that is going to push the rounds up as they're going in and out of the chamber. So you're going to see that there's a lot of common groups in magazines. So your 45 ACP pretty much stands alone, and people will use a 45 ACP magazine for any of the 45 ACP caliber group, which there isn't a whole lot. You got a 460 Roland that will also fit in here. You also have a 400 Corbon. And there's a few other Wildcats out there that also you can use in the 45 ACP mag. 10 millimeter. I do see people using 45 ACP mags for 10 millimeters all the time. It's not a good practice. The lips are wider. The casing's going to be, hot dogging around in there a little bit, and generally you're going to have feeding issues. So, pretty much stick to 45 to the 45 ACP caliber group. Next would be the 40 and 10 millimeter. Now, when I look at the 40 and 10 millimeter, what's going to be the differences? Well, you'll notice they're pretty much the same, other than the 40, the feed lips again will be formed differently than a 45 ACP to accommodate the smaller diameter cartridge. Also, you'll see the followers are a little bit different, and the 40S and W will be a little bit shorter. Why is that? Well, you'll see the magazine bodies themselves, again, exactly the same dimension this way. So what they do is they'll put a backer plate in here, so it'll accommodate the length of the 40 Smith & Wesson versus the longer length of the 10 millimeter. So for the most part, you're looking at these two magazines, and other than being different materials, they're exactly identical, other than the follower is longer on the 10 millimeter, and there'll be a backer plate included in the 40S and W magazine. And again, the outside periphery, the outside dimensions are exactly the same as the 45 ACP again, other than the feed lips and the top area here where the follower is. And again, it will just fit directly into any single stack 1911. So then, you move to the 9 millimeter caliber group, which will have the 38 Super, 9x23, 9x21, of course, the 9x19, 9mm Luger, 380 Auto. What do you do there? Again, this is a 38 Super magazine, and then you'll look at, here's another brand of a 9mm. And again, you'll see the followers, there'll be different followers. Some people like round followers, some people like flat followers. There's all different, different types of followers that people may like. But again, when you look at the overall outside dimensions of the magazines, they're exactly the same as the 45 ACP until you get up to the follower and the feed lips in this area up in here. And again, the 38 Super magazine and the 9mm magazine are constructed and designed very similar to the 40S and W and 10mm, being that they'll use basically a 38 Super housing, adding a backer plate in here to take up some of the slack of the cartridge, and then again it becomes a 9mm magazine. Again, sometimes you will find they will do a little bit different shaping on the feed lips, shortening the feed lips, lengthening the feed lips, things of that nature to allow better feeding. So that's the basics on your magazines. So you really don't have to be concerned about the magazine brand that much. Buy kind of what you like, buy what works for you. A lot of people will say, well, Bob, your Freedom series, your Fusion Freedom series, what do I have to buy Freedom magazines? No, you can buy any 1911 magazine out there, just like if it was a Sig Sauer or a Springfield or a Kimber. They're all using the same style of magazines with the same similar dimensions. So, they're pretty much universally used, and you can exchange them between the different models. So hopefully that clarifies things with the magazines for you. And what we'll do is we'll go out on the shop floor now. We'll take a few pictures of actually removing some of the followers and some of the floor plates on some of these, because you will find differences in the magazines there, where some of the floor plates, which are the bottom piece here, will be welded on, so you can't just pop it off. Other ones are the poly style floor plates, so you can just push the little spring-loaded button here and then push the floor plate out through the front, and everything will unload through the bottom of the magazine if you want to clean the magazine. So there's some differences there slightly, and we'll take a few close-up views of that and show you in this video also. So we'll move on to that next. All right, folks, we'll give you a little bit closer detail on the magazine and the parts. You know, this is your magazine body right here. You have a floor plate, which will be either welded or removable, and depending on the magazine itself. So like this style here is welded on, so you can't take it off. This is removable, which we'll show you how to take that off. You've got your feed lip area right here. Give you your feed lips, and you got your follower, and of course your spring is resting underneath the follower itself. So the ones with the removable bases, you'll generally see a small detent like this where you can push in, so you'll end up taking a punch or a pin. I usually put my thumb right behind here. I put one finger on the front of the magazine base plate here. That way it doesn't come flying out under spring tension. Push down on the button that you'll see there and just move it forward. So you see how I got this thumb here encapsulating. There's usually a plate inside here, and then the spring, and then the follower, which will be down inside. I'll remove that, and then I'll just release this slowly with my thumb. And you'll see there's the plate I was talking about with the little button on it. There's your magazine spring, which there's all different designs of that. And then your follower, which again, this is where the cartridge, the back of the brass, is going to actually sit on. That's what's pushing the cartridges up in the actual body. So again, how are you going to put that back together? You can generally put it through the top here, okay, or again through the bottom, whichever way you prefer. Make sure that's set properly. Follower's in there, it's not crooked, jammed up. Then your spring goes in. Then you look at the orientation of this. Usually there's a rounded end, flat end on the back, but the button itself has to go up. So just, you know, remember your orientation. Down into the magazine body, push it down in. Now your plastic base plate. There's usually a tongue and groove here. You'll see that there's a groove section here, and there's a little tongue that's stamped on the outside areas here of the magazine, but you just lay that on there, and then little pressure downwards and back, and it'll lock right in. Then generally I'll take a punch and just work that, make sure that's in the right spot so that the plunger will lock in. Again, it's plastic, so sometimes you'll have a little bit of difficulties, but just make sure that locks in, and you'll see you'll get some resistance on that. And then generally I'll take a Allen wrench or something, push on the follower, make sure I don't have anything jamming up. But then you can take your magazines apart, you know, and you can clean inside with a brush, cleaning brush, oil them up, you know, and get them cleaned up nicely. Okay, so that's the one with the actual polymer or removable floor plate. And then if you don't have a removable floor plate, let's look at this one here. And again, this is a 38 Super. And we'll take this one here as a, well, that's a 40 S&W. This one here is a 9mm. So again, with a closer look here, you can see where the 9mm has this back plate welded into the back of the magazine here because of the shorter cartridge, to accommodate the shorter cartridge and a shorter follower, versus the 38 Super, which will have a longer area here and no backer plate welded in here to accommodate the shorter cartridge. Okay, so that's just to give you a little idea there. All right, so let's go over to the vise and we'll take one of these apart. Okay, folks, so here's one with a welded bottom. If we want to take this follower out and clean the magazine, what am I going to do? I'm just going to clamp it, and again, you don't want to over tighten it, because if you over tighten it, you're going to end up squashing the body of the magazine, causing all types of issues with the follower moving up and down in it, cartridges moving up and down in it, all that. I usually use like an Allen wrench and a punch. I'll take this and I'll push the follower down to a certain point, and then you'll see the holes in the side of the magazine. I'll go ahead and insert this below the follower, okay, to retain the spring and not the follower itself. So that will actually allow it so that the follower can move up freely. And see how I'm just removing the follower? I've actually just took my punch, put it underneath, brought it to the front. You'll see how it'll end up nosing down in the back, and then I can actually bring the follower right up and out of the magazine. Oops. Okay. Then I can take the spring out. Again, I'm going to put my thumb over top. I'm just going to pull out my Allen wrench. And there you go. There's your magazine spring and your magazine body. Generally, with a welded floor plate, you're not going to end up with a bottom piece on the bottom of the spring. That's usually only in the ones with a removable floor plate themselves. How am I going to put it all back together? You can clean this now, do whatever you want to clean. Okay, so we're retaining the magazine again and the vise. Bring the spring down. And again, I'm going to push this spring down in ways. There's a few ways I can do that. Let's see here. Grab a tool, some tool I got here off the bench. You can just take the spring. I'm just using a regular screwdriver, push it down in there, retain it. So now I have the spring retained down inside. Retain it with just by putting the Allen wrench through the holes. You can use a pin punch or whatever you want. Now I'll end up going ahead and putting Mr. Follower back in there. Now you'll see the follower has, it's just going to flop around in there. Doesn't have much tension on it. Generally, after it goes down into that position and kind of goes to rest on the spring, I'll generally either put a punch or my finger in it, pull the Allen wrench out, and then just allow that to come back up. And then up and down, just push on it. Make sure it's not, binding anywhere. You don't have any binding or anything of the follower itself. Okay, pretty simple, and that way you can clean your magazines and maintain them the way you need to.